Our global role, I think we've really, in fact, Bruce Mann and I were talking about it out there in the audience, is that, the saying goes that nobody ever loses money during a gold rush when you're the guy selling shovels.
Right.
And that really is our global strategy, is that we're investing heavily in content creation, in IP, in writing talent, not just in the US, but throughout Europe and increasingly in India and the rest of Southeast Asia. And so we look at our primary role is creating content. And when you look at what Joe just was talking about and with Kevin and Eric before, is that you have 4 or 5 global streaming competitors that are about to start what is going to be an epic battle for subscriber time and money. And we look at our role in that as being somebody that can create great content. We're the only scalable independent studio on the planet today.
Right.
And that's going to be our primary role. Now, that doesn't mean we have other business lines, but that's the main one that we're staking out.
So you're the arms dealer for the race. But I mean, just looking on that, because I know you've got to this point also after you and Tony have implemented some structural and organizational changes as you arrived in Sony. Can you tell us a little bit about that, why you took that approach, and if you've seen any benefits arising from those changes?
Sure, absolutely. So, Sony's acquired Sony Pictures Television, or actually Sony Pictures Entertainment 30 years ago. And over those decades, different organizational structures took place and were really designed for a time and place that isn't today. And so what we did is we took a look at our organization and said, how do we reimagine this organization for the future, given the landscape that I just described? And so what we did is we took our global media networks business, our TV distribution business, and our home entertainment businesses. We put those into one organization and then streamline that organization. And really the idea behind it is to give our leadership around the world the opportunity to determine what's the best outcome for the content that we have. Should we license it to third parties? Should we license it globally to one of the streamers? Should we retain some of those rights and sell them locally to the local broadcaster? And that's, or should we sell it to our own platforms and channels? And I think that's been very effective for us over the last year or so.
Understood. And as you prioritize and look at those different opportunities, how do you look at Asia Pacific, say relative to Latin America and Europe? I know there were some adventures from Sony before your time, and you had to sort of transition from those. But as you look at it now in this part of the world, how do you see the region?
Well, we're clearly strongest in India and Japan.
Right.
The rest of Southeast Asia is complex and complicated. In fact, you just wrote a piece last month describing the challenges in the pay TV market.
Right.
So we're looking at every one of our businesses, not just in Southeast Asia, but around the world, and trying to make that determination. Is that a business that we can see growing? What's our strategy? If it's not, we're looking at a variety of options for those businesses. But in Southeast Asia in particular, we're fully functional. We've got a few pay TV channels. We have content creation assets. We distribute our content here, and we're constantly looking for better ways to monetize the content.
And then after that, just to bundle in, is about India, because obviously you've got a great local business there for some time, but I know you also want to do different things with it. How do you see India evolving and changing for Sony, given the competitive intensity and also the regulatory issues you have to deal with there?
Sure. Well, we're super conscious of what Joe was just talking about, that local matters, but incumbency doesn't guarantee you anything. And so we are fortunate to be one of the incumbents. I think I can say fortunate. I think many media companies would like to have the investments we have in India. We're aggressively investing a lot of capital to build out Sony Live, which is our AVOD, SVOD service there. We're investing a lot in production, in local production. All of our content, for the most part, on our array of cable networks and broadcast channels are produced by Sony. So we already have assets producing local content throughout the country. We're investing even more in the local languages in the South.
Right.
That's a place where we haven't previously invested a lot, and we're really focused on that as well. But I'm happy about our position in India, and I think we're going to be aggressive in making that a bigger business for us in the future.
Would you look at an M&A position there?
You never know. You never know. I'm not going to make any news this morning, but there's obviously some opportunities there.
What about the regulatory issue? I mean, I referred to it earlier in the morning with the tariff order, because that's created a lot of uncertainty. And also given the fact that you've been so close in the last few years to building out Hulu, you know what constitutes a D2C. Where do you want to see Sony Live go from a product perspective?
Sure. Well, I think we have the unique opportunity in that market, not dissimilar from what Star has done, to have an array of linear channels that you can distribute on your application. We're creating original content for that platform. We have our own array of sports rights as well, and we do see that the MAUs spike anytime we have a cricket match or there's a big sporting event. So I think the user experience there is going to obviously evolve over time, but it has to be nimble. It has to be able to work. Right, you have to be able to stream, as Kevin was talking about on the lower bandwidth mobile. It's a huge mobile market, but I think the experience there is going to improve a lot over the next couple of years. It's already pretty good, but we're going to continue to grow that.
Great. Yeah. And other markets in Asia, you talked about content, and obviously to do that, there's going to be a level of locality. Are you looking at more production in markets like Korea or partnerships in Korea to create great content, and also in Southeast Asia?
Yeah, when I was mentioning the selling shovels during a gold rush, I wasn't just talking about our U.S. studio, which is a great and dynamic growing business. We have 22 international studios all over the planet.
Right.
We're investing more in that in Southeast Asia, particularly Korea and China. We want to do a lot more local production. We see that as a big opportunity for us, and something that we think that when we have our global distribution assets, we can support creators in local markets and provide them a unique opportunity, not only to help them create more local content for the array of platforms that are emerging, but also then take that content, distribute it around the world if in fact it's not sold to a global streamer. And that's been very successful for us in the past, and we're investing more in that in the future.
Understood. As you build that out even more, it sounds like you've got a great local business in India that you're going to retool and look at several options, and then you've got this great content and also niche OTT services coming out of Japan. And Southeast Asia also is a content creative engine. Do you consolidate your networks business, or do you partner with other players? Because that seems to be the one sort of question mark that exists.
Sure. So I like has been stated multiple times here, probably over the years, is that I think that linear channels have a half-life to them. I think they're not going to necessarily be the engine that drives the future. So I think if you're going to have a linear channel, you have to figure out ways to be involved in digital as well.
Yeah.
And so in places where we can do that, where we can have a 360 offering, we're looking aggressively in Latin America, certain parts of Southeast Asia, obviously India, certain markets in Europe. I think those are areas where if we can take the broadcast or the cable networks that we have, also invest and most likely partner on OTT services, I think that's the place where we're gonna invest. But again, I think the main thrust for our company globally is content creation and being that shovel seller. I'm actually glad that we came up with that, because I've been using arms dealer, which is not really what you want to be using.
Seller. Yeah. Fair enough.
So I think shovel seller is what I'm gonna.
So the last question: where do you want to be? Where do you see Sony in Asia over the next 24 months? What is your definition of success?
Well, I think making sure that we have vibrant channels that matter. I think it's the worst place to be is halfway between people that don't, if you're walking around and people don't know you have a cable network, that's a bad place to be.
Right.
So I think we're going to increase investment in content creation. We're going to find opportunities to make the cable networks stronger and more viable in the future. And I think we're going to really double down in India. That's a place where we're really focused as well.
All right. Thanks very much, Mike. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.